Hi, subscribe to the channel, and for 1000 subscribers on the channel a video with stories for 24 hours will be released and also a bonus which you will learn about in the future.
Just found out that my wife has been cheating on me with our sadovnikum that we got married young and have been together for about 10 years. Everything has always seemed perfect from the outside, looking in. Our friends would always tell us how much they invited our relationship, and that was something we kind of loved. However, we had our share of troubles, that we were just really good at hiding them. Almost nobody in our lives knew this, but we separated a few years ago, and we thought we might divorce. But the old saying, absence makes the heart grow fonder, really proved to be true with us. After we got back together, we were stronger than ever. Both my wife and I wanted children, but due to some health issues, my wife, as we knew that a pregnancy for her would be very high risk, our plan was always to try and adopt a child. Once we had the financial ability to do so. At the start of the pandemic, she and I were part of the big puppy boom that happened. Since both of us were home so much, we decided it would be the perfect time to adopt that. We adopted a golden retriever pup from rescue, and it quickly became the central focus of our lives. We thought that since we would both be home with it all the time, there wouldn't be any issues, but neither of us was prepared for the energy this dog had, that if we didn't let it out to run several times a day, then it would tear our house apart, while it was trying to exert some of its excess energy, that we ended up hiring a dog walker who would come to the house a few times a day while we were working to take him out on long walks, run with him, take him to the park, etc. The guy we hired was a graduate student at the local university, who was just trying to tove up some money while he was in school. When I first met him, I thought that he was a nice kid. We loved the dog, and he was friendly enough with my wife and me that I work in pharmaceutical sales. So a large part of my job requires me to travel and meet face-to-face clients. When everything started to go into the green, my usual workload resumed, and I was traveling again. Wife was still working remotely. There were a lot of nights that I had to leave her home alone. We had both been huge true crime podcast listeners, so we were a bit paranoid about her being alone. So we had a pretty solid security system installed throughout the entire house. One night, I was working late. My team had an overseas conference call. And I hadn't planned on being home until at least 8 p.m. That I got a notification on my phone that one of the cameras at my house had been turned off. I stepped away and took a look through all of the cameras on my phone and realized that one of the hall cameras had gone out. That it struck me as very odd. And like I said, we were a bit paranoid about crime, so I was worried. That I called my wife right away to make sure she was all right. But I didn't get any answer. That only made my paranoia worse. That I looked through the other cameras to see if I saw any sign of my wife or an intruder, but I didn't see anything. That I called her again, and still there was no answer. After explaining my concerns to my coworkers, everybody agreed that it would be best for me to leave just to make sure everything was all right. God forbid anything happened, and I was stuck at work. I drove back to the house as quickly as I could and rushed inside. Screaming my wife's name while I went looking for her. My dog ran right up to me, jumping on me like he always does, acting like nothing was happening. That eased some of my worries, but I still needed to get eyes on my wife. That I ran up to the bedroom, taking a brief glance at the camera and the hall to see that it was fine. When I turned the knob on our bedroom door, it was locked. That I banged on it and called my wife's name, hearing a little bit of scuffling behind the door. That I've never been much of a hath type of guy, but I thought something was happening inside of the room, so I kicked the door. And I walked through the broken door frame and saw my wife completely naked and actively trying to hide our dog walker in the closet. They both froze when they saw me. The camera being shut off suddenly made sense. If she was sneaking him into our bedroom, she didn't want to leave any trail behind, for me to potentially see. That I was in complete shock when I saw it. My adrenaline was still pumping from thinking that there was some sort of intruder in the house. My wife was trying to say something to me, but I could hardly hear anything she was saying. The only thing that I was focusing on was the man in my closet that I wanted to rip his head off, but I knew that getting physical was only going to hurt me. That in the end, without saying anything at all, I walked right out of the house and drove away. My phone was blowing up from my wife as well as some of my coworkers, making sure everything was okay. A few days past and I just tried to think about my next steps moving forward. That I was definitely going to be developing my own way of life. Divorcing my wife, there was no chance that I would be staying with her and potentially raising a child with her after what she did. In fact, I confessed what happened to one of my coworkers, and they helped me to figure out a way to get back at them both. We had actually recommended the dog walker to a lot of people in our neighborhood, because we liked him so much when he first started. On top of that, my wife was very involved in the community service circle. In hindsight, their sleeping together was very clearly premeditated. If my wife had the foresight to turn off the cameras to hide him, then they must have had some kind of chat about it, that I looked through our phone bill to try to find any messages between them. Dot and I found a treasure trove of explicit messages they exchanged with the help of my coworker. We published a small pamphlet full of the details of their affair, which had apparently been going on for quite some time. This was just the first time they had done it in the house, that I went door-to-door and handed the pamphlets directly to the adults of the houses. That I watched their faces for a moment when they realized what it was. It was scandalous news. And I just knew that they would be talking about it for a while. And why wife was treated like a leper in the neighborhood after that. All of the friends she made during the time we lived there turned their backs on her. And she was all alone. On top of that, the dog walker was fired for more than half of the jobs he had in our neighborhood. After I turned everyone we knew against her, my wife didn't put up a fight during the divorce, that I had enough evidence anyway to keep her away from all of the assets, that I've had to keep the house, which I turned around and sold shortly after everything was settled. Now I'm ready to move on with my life and forget all about her, and hopefully find someone else that I can be happy with moving forward. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.
2 story.
Anton and Lena had been married for 8 years. Their life seemed ideal. Both had stable jobs, lived in a cozy house, and raised 2 children. However, Anton always felt that Lena was hiding something. He noticed her frequent calls and messages in the evenings, but did not attach much importance to it, trying to trust his wife. One evening, Anton decided to stay at home, pretending to be sick, to monitor Lena's behavior. As usual, she started texting on her phone, but when she realized that her husband was sleeping, her messages became more frank. Anton was watching her from behind the slightly open bedroom door, his heart pounding from tension. When Lena went into the bathroom and left the phone on the table, Anton took advantage of the moment. He quickly picked up the phone and started reading the messages. In them, Lena and a certain Mikhail discussed their meetings, details of betrayal, and even plans for the future. Anton felt that everything inside him was boiling with anger and pain. Anton spent a sleepless night thinking about his next actions. He felt that he could not simply forgive Lena's betrayal and live on as if nothing had happened. Anger, resentment, and the desire to avenge the pain were seething inside him. He knew he had to do something, but he didn't know where to start. In the morning, when Lena went to work, Anton began to look for evidence of her betrayal. He took her phone and found numerous photos and videos that Lena had taken during her meetings with Mikhail. Some of these videos were of an intimate nature, and Anton realized that this was exactly what he needed for revenge. Anton decided to create an anonymous account on a social network in order to post materials there. He chose a platform that allowed him to quickly gain popularity due to viral content. Having created an account, he began uploading videos and photos there, accompanying them with a description that revealed the essence of what was happening. He tried to make people understand that this is a real story of treason and betrayal. Anton, in his mind, "You betrayed me, Lena. You destroyed our family with your actions. Now I will show everyone who you really are." Anton accompanied each video and photo with a text describing how Lena hid her meetings, lied to him and the children, and betrayed their trust. He emphasized how her actions affected their family and children, emphasizing that she deserves condemnation. Anton also began to write detailed posts describing his feelings and experiences. He talked about how he found out about the treason, how it affected him and their family, and why he decided to post these materials online. His words were full of pain and anger, and many people reading them began to sympathize with him and condemn Lena. Posts and videos began to quickly gain popularity. People shared them, commented, and discussed the story of Anton and Lena. The videos became viral, and soon they began to be discussed in the news and on popular forums. Anton did not expect such a quick and large-scale response, but he understood that his plan was working. Anton, in his mind, "Now everyone knows the truth, Lena. You destroyed our family, and now you are reaping the fruits of your actions. He continued to monitor the reaction of people on the network, watching how their support and sympathy turned into condemnation of Lena. His account gained subscribers, and the video continued to gain millions of views. Anton felt satisfied that his revenge was successful and that the truth came out. Every day, the video gained more and more views, and Anton began to receive offers from journalists and publishers. His story became a sensation, and many wanted to know more about his life and how he survived his wife's betrayal. Anton decided to use this opportunity to earn money and provide a future for his children. Anton understood that his actions could have serious consequences, but he could no longer tolerate lies and betrayal. He decided to fight for justice and show everyone that treason and treachery do not go unpunished. A few days later, Lena returned home in tears. She found out that the video of her cheating spread all over the internet. Her colleagues, friends, and family were shocked. Her life was destroyed in one moment. Anton cold-bloodedly watched her reaction, showing no sympathy. Anton: I warned you, Lena. Now everyone knows what you really are. Lena, through tears: Anton, how could you? You ruined everything. I lost my job. Everyone I know condemns me. It's unbearable. Anton: You did it yourself. Your lies and treachery led to this. I only showed the truth. Lena tried to justify herself, begged Anton to delete the video, but it was too late. She was gathering things to leave home. The children were frightened and confused, not understanding what was happening. The video continued to gain popularity, and soon Anton was offered interviews and cooperation. Journalists wanted to learn his experience, sharing the details of his life with Lena, her betrayal, and his revenge plan. The book quickly became a bestseller, and Anton received a significant amount of money from its sale. He used these money to provide for his children and start a new life. Lena, meanwhile, could not recover after the scandal. Her reputation was destroyed, and she was forced to move to another city where no one knew her story. She lost everything: work, family, friends. Her life turned into a nightmare from which she could not get out. Anton, despite all the pain and suffering he had experienced, found consolation in the fact that justice had prevailed. He understood that sometimes it is necessary to take radical measures in order to restore justice and protect yourself and your loved ones. Moral of the story: sometimes the betrayal of a close person can destroy life, but it is important to remember that the truth always comes out. Using your capabilities and supporting justice, you can find a way out of the most difficult situation and start a new life. Dear listeners, thank you very much for listening to my story. Your attention and support means a lot to me. I hope you enjoyed it and found something important for yourself in this story. If you like this story and want to hear more stories like this, please subscribe to my channel. There are many more interesting and exciting stories ahead of you, which I will be happy to share with you. Subscribe, like, and leave your comments. Your opinion is very important to me, and I am always glad to hear your feedback and suggestions. Thanks again for your support. See you soon. See.
3 story.
Husband accused me of humiliating him in front of our child. I angrily told him he humiliated himself when he went to bed. Not me was woken up this morning because the sheets I was lying on were wet. I assumed our child had had an accident, but when I checked where the wetness came from, it to my surprise turned out it wasn't her, but my husband that had wet the bed. After I had taken him, I woke him up and told him, shower, he'd wet the bed. At first he denied it. Then I guess he realized he indeed had. As he got this mortified look on his face, jumped right out of bed and started to try rip the bedding off as we have, pull on sheets, and our child was sleeping on the other side. He didn't get them off. It looked stupid and honestly quite funny. So I chuckled. He angrily told me it wasn't funny. So I stopped at that point. The only thing his pulling of the sheets had accomplished was to wake up our child, who was confused and asked what was going on. He didn't say, just idiotically continued to try to get the sheets off. So when he didn't reply, I just told her he'd wet the bed at that. He just froze and looked at me with this weird look on his face, almost like he was about to cry or something. Our child asked why he'd wet the bed. And as he still was completely silent, I went something along the line of that sometimes accidents happen. He just stood there staring at me. If looks could kill, I would be dead. And I'm not exaggerating when I say he looked at me with pure hate. I've never been afraid of him, but for a second or two, I thought he might hit me. Then he just dropped the things he managed to get off the bed on the floor, left the room, and locked himself in the bathroom for about 55 minutes. When he came out, he got dressed in a hurry and just left with saying, "You can take her to school." He didn't even look at me. His behavior really annoyed me, but I just let him be, as I didn't want to argue with him when he was in such a bad mood. When I got home from work, he was still sulking and basically ignored me. I was still annoyed with him from the morning, so his behavior annoyed me even more. So I told him to get over it, that it wasn't the end of the world that he went to bed, and to stop taking it out on me at that. He accused me of having humiliated him. When I told our child, I found that incredibly ridiculous on so many levels. So I angrily told him that he humiliated himself when he went the bed, not me. He didn't take that too well, and said, "You," and went off to his computer, and now he refuses to talk to me. And I just feel confused. I think he's the one that behaved poorly and immature and that I haven't done anything wrong. The last thing I said may have been harsh, but I feel like he had it coming. Yet I feel like perhaps I meant to him. Am I the edit? I just want to clarify that I did not tell our child to be mean or to humiliate my husband. I told her because I didn't know what else to say. And as it was quite obvious what had happened, I thought it was just best to be honest. I didn't tell her in any humiliating way, just as a matter of fact, without doing a big thing about it. I didn't think my husband would feel that bad about it. Relevant comments: YTA probably wasn't the best option to tell your child. He went to bed, you could have said you spilled some water or just distracted her with something else. But it's really not that big of a deal. D, that said you could clearly tell that it embarrassed your husband. Knowing that he was not feeling the best, you should have given him a little grace for being a little short in what he was saying. And the fact that he was not acting super bubbly, him being embarrassed and not wanting to talk, is not an attack on you. It's not about you. Anger and embarrassment are both completely valid emotions. So unless he is being rude to you, you have to be okay, letting people process things and not taking it personally. But then you told him to get over it and said you humiliated yourself by wetting the bed total. Dash shabag, move for real. This could have been handled so much better. Opie, he was being rude to me. He was rude when he looked at me like he was going to hit me. He was rude when he told me not asked to take our child to school, even though he was supposed to. He was rude when he left me to clean up after him. But I let that be, as he was upset. He could have told me that he was angry or disappointed or felt humiliated by me when I got home. But he didn't. Instead, he chose to say nothing and ignored me, which is rude behavior. And it pissed me off. But yes, the last thing I said was mean. And I do regret saying that, as that is not even what I think. Update: I reread my original posts, and there are some things I would like to elaborate on. Before I come to the update, I did feel empathy and I did care about my husband. I was gentle when I told him after I'd woken him up. However, his reaction caught me off guard, and the time from when he got up from bed until he locked himself in the bathroom couldn't have been more than a minute. After that, I felt it was best to leave him alone. I know I wasn't for telling our child, but I didn't do it to be mean or humiliate him. It was a stupid, wrongful decision. I regret it further. It's not easy to show someone that you care when you're being ignored. I did text him after he left and asked if he was okay, but he left it. Henri, I asked him again when I got home, but he didn't answer. I asked him if we could talk about it. No answer. I asked him if he could at least tell me why he was so mad at me. No answer. I gave up and went to make dinner after dinner. I asked him if he could stop ignoring me. No answer. I asked him if he wanted me to leave, to which he replies, "You can stay, I don't care." So I asked him again if he will stop ignoring me if I stay, and when he says no is when I had it. And while I don't think ignoring someone like that is okay, I know I handled it really bad, and I do feel awful for being outright mean to him. Anyway, I texted him early this morning to say that I was so sorry and asked if he was willing to talk after work so that I could apologize. He texted me back and, okay, around noon, we met up at home. And he understandably was cold to me when we met, didn't say much. I apologize for everything, for laughing, for telling our child, for telling him to get over it, and for the part that I'm most ashamed of, that I told him he humiliated himself. He was just silent the whole time. And when I was done, he just asked why I told our child. I explained, and after that, we just sat in silence in what felt like forever. Then right out of nowhere, He went, something like, I scared you, right? And I told him that briefly he did. He said he could feel that I asked what made him react so strong, but he didn't know, just said that he panicked when he realized he'd wet the bed, that it got even worse when I told our child, and that he just got so angry with me for it. I apologized again for making him feel that way. He apologized for making me scared. I'm not going to go through all that we said after, that it was a long talk, but in conclusion, none of us is happy with how we acted, and we have both apologized for it. He wasn't that bugged about me laughing, but we both agree that I shouldn't have told our child. However, he's no longer mad about it and doesn't think it's that big of a deal. We both think he shouldn't have ignored me like that, and that I handled it poorly and was mean. We have both accepted each other's apologies, but I still feel bad for being so mean to him. But all in all, we are on good terms now. Relevant comments. Wow, I just read your original post. You really aren't, and seemed oblivious to it. The way you talked about it really triggered me. I've experienced people like you, even dated one, where it seems like you can't empathize with someone who might react emotionally to things differently than you. And then when someone has the audacity to give you the mental angst of considering whether you did something hurtful, you go even harder trying to put them in their place, almost like it's some kind of defense mechanism to protect your ego. And the way you were talking to and about your husband also sounded abusive. Opie, yes, I really up in this situation, and I was oblivious to it. I wouldn't say that I normally have a hard time emphasizing with people, but in this case, I clearly did. I wasn't expecting him to react so strongly, and it completely caught me off guard, as I said. I've been with him for 9 years, and I usually know pretty well how he will react, what makes him upset and what doesn't. But now I just got it all wrong, and I'm not at all happy about it. Comment, as someone who remembers fights like this from my childhood, have you talked to your daughter Opie? I have. We talked about it in the morning, as she thought he was behaving strange when he just left again. When I put her to bed yesterday, and some in between. I don't know if he did sleep in her room together with her last night. But when he went to bed, she was already asleep. Otherwise, I don't think they interacted that much yesterday. Not that he ignored her or were rude to her at all, but I think that she could sense that he was in a bad mood and stayed away tonight. She's at my parents' house, as I thought it would be good for us to talk without her and for her to not have to deal with I feel so bad for her having to be up in this